All right, so this video is going to be showing you guys how to find standard deviation using Desmos, which is really cool, pretty easy to do. So one of the first things is you can see up in the left-hand corner, there's a plus sign. I'm going to click it, and notice that it allows you to put a lot of different things in here. Most often in Desmos, people put an expression to graph, but in this case, we want a set of data that we're giving it, so we're actually going to choose the table setting. So that is what I've already done here, and I've entered these 6 points, which represent scores on a recent assessment. So once you have your data in, you do want to make sure you notice what it's labeled as. So this column is labeled as X subscript 1. That's what I'm going to use anytime I try to find my different statistical analysis. So I've already done the first one for you guys here, which is finding the mean. This one's pretty easy to find by hand. You can find the same exact number by adding up all 6 of these data points and then dividing by 6 because we have 6 data points. But we're going to be looking at standard deviation. So I've already done box 1, box 2. I can come down here to box 3, and now I can do another statistical analysis. Notice on the iPad, it goes ahead and it pulls open the keyboard. If you're on a computer, you're going to have a little icon on the bottom that looks like a keyboard that will pull this up for you. All the way on the right-hand side, you're going to see the functions button. So if you click on that and scroll, there's an entire list for statistical analysis that we can run. We've already done the basic mean, and here we're going to look at standard deviation. So towards the middle, this third row down, you're going to see there's actually 2 different types of standard deviation. There is your basic standard deviation, which I'm going to do first. Notice I pulled it up and it gave me this exclamation. That's because I have to tell it what data to choose from. So once again, I'm simply going to do like I did above the mean and say, hey, I'm using this data that's in this column X subscript 1. So I'm going to choose the X. In order to actually get this subscript, I'm going to go down to the ABC button. It's going to pull open the keyboard. And the first option down here at the very bottom is an A with a subscript of B. That allows me to put in any subscripts. I'm going to choose that. Go back to my numbers, choose 1. I've put in my data, and notice it automatically calculated the standard deviation for me. The second one I'm going to choose is the standard deviation with a P on the edge of it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tell it which data to use. And bam, we're going to get that number. So these are 2 slightly different standard deviations, and notice that it does give us 2 slightly different numbers. This first one is the standard deviation that we take when we are looking at data that is a sample of an entire population. So we don't actually have every single data point of the population. We're using a sample to estimate that population. The big difference here is that when you're calculating it, you're actually going to divide by 1 less than the amount of data points you have. Standard deviation with a P on the end means the population. It means that you do actually have every single data point of the population. And when you take this one, you actually just divide by every single one of them because you do have it when you're trying to find that average. So that's why this number is slightly smaller. There's 6 data points here. While finding the standard deviation, when we're finding the average of the square distances, in this case, we actually divided by 6, versus in this case I just highlighted, they divided by 5. Now, if you're in one of my classes and you're following along with this, we are going to make sure that we're using the second one for now. But as you go into higher level statistics and you're really using this idea of looking at a sample to estimate a population, you're more likely to use this first standard deviation. Once again, if you're in my class and you're following along with this, we're going to be using the one that has a P tacked onto the end of it.